Yes. 1 hour.
Government, don't we love it?
1:20.
Oh,
We're on? Yeah.
that's
Yay.
okay. You
We
can
are.
quote
It's
me
10:01.
on that one. I got no problem with that.
All right, I'd like to officially call this Seneca County Board of Commissioners meeting to order for Tuesday, July 8th. Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you'll join me for a prayer. Lord, thank you for this day and for the blessing of the rain and all of the other blessings you bestow upon us. Be with us as we gather at this time for the conduct of public business, and may we do so in serving you. Amen.
Amen.
Roll call.
Commissioner Stacy?
Here.
Commissioner Zoller?
Here.
Commissioner White?
Here.
All right, have the signing of the journal, and I'll accept a motion to approve the DVD recording of the previous board session from Tuesday, July 1st, and the index.
I make a motion to approve as outlined.
Second?
And a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Just making sure. Approved.
I was looking at the adjustment, I was reading that. but
All right, and then we have any adjustments to the agenda? They had an additional resolution that was added, obviously, since the first printing of an agenda for regional planning. Anything else either of you have,
I
or?
want to talk about the buildings and grounds application. I think we've talked about it before, so that can be old business.
Okay.
And our quarterly meeting, I want to bring that up.
All right, anything, Jeff or Fred?
I think just probably from the public standpoint, give an update of where we stand at with the parking lot out here and the soil test, just so it's in public record.
Okay. All right, and Nikki, you have anything? Okay, let's begin with the old business, and, well, let's start with the parking lot. Yeah, we had a preliminary, but nothing we can go by officially, right?
Yeah, no, the preliminary comeback, this, finally, I guess it was this morning time you got it, and the soil that was taken out is contaminated, that has to be disposed of as hazardous material. The preliminary results is the dirt that they excavated in the ditch is now, and the hole is now clean. So, but they said we can't make any action on it because it's not official yet. So we're just still in limbo, but we believe that we're now, the worst is over. Whatever that is. Yeah,
Keep our fingers crossed.
And they did come in and do CSB's lot.
They did.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, they black-tinted CSBs.
Yep.
It looks like both sides. Did they do it in the back,
Yes.
back there too?
Yep.
Yeah, looks very nice.
Yep. I think they're finishing up. They don't have it striped yet.
Yeah, I think I seen their equipment is sitting down at the city where the old food town or something used to be years and years ago down by the river. So,
I think they're hoping we get an answer quickly.
yeah, they're waiting to, got the equipment moved in here and waiting to.
I hope as well.
The reason it's taken a little longer than normal, and I think we made the right decision. We had, it was an $800 fee if we wanted to expedite it in 3 days, and as it took 7 or 8 days. So we just didn't think the $800 was a wise investment. Not that awfully inconvenient.
Okay. Buildings and grounds application.
Just wanted to, the newest buildings and grounds application I received is a much larger event, the only large event we've ever had that I know of on that ground over there in front of the courthouse has been the Heritage Fest. The request I have now is for, it's on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. They're talking about a large tent, and they've got 500 to 650 people. This seems like a very large event during the day when we're having work hours. I did send it over to Judge Kelbley, as he's the administrative judge, and he approves any, the administrative judge approves events on that. on that ground end. But I did want to bring it up to you to see, I mean, that's rather large, and it is during work hours. Are we going to have an issue with any?
So, what do they want to do?
They want to have it says children's entertainment in the afternoon, and then it says office house style entertainment at night. August 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. on the courthouse lawn in a large tent with covered stage space and room for audience to sit on lawn chairs or blankets.
Who's sponsoring it? Or who's?
The request is from the Ritz Theater.
I think the cautionary fact is that this is usually the requester for things on the weekend or evenings
Or a
specifically,
smaller
aren't they?
event.
Or smaller, but it just seems like we keep getting more and more requests. I'm not against, the daytime thing concerns me, and
Right.
obviously,
Yeah.
it's the reason the presiding judge decides if they want to sign off on things in that particular area
Right.
of all of requests. We get requests for our parking lots and other things too, but of the courthouse lawn. I guess I'm a little fearful of people, I don't want to say we shouldn't use it, but becoming customary to that when we very well might make a decision in the near future by the end of the year of doing something with that square and our building needs. I mean, we may not, it's a flip of the coin at the moment, but I just don't want people to get even more upset with us when that same amount of space isn't available. And there are other areas, I'm not against anything in downtown, but there is other yard lots, not right in the center, and parks and things, I don't know.
I personally don't want to make a carnival experience in front of a judicial center. I just don't think that that's an appropriate, the courthouse or the annex, which is our really our courthouse now, is supposed to be a very structured type environment.
Serious
And-
environment,
Yeah,
yeah.
serious.
Yeah.
And also, I have to at least say, it's been vacant over there for a number of years. Is this not some underlying tone for use of this parcel? I would not be for it, for certainly anything permanent or anything in the afternoon hours. Weekends, absolutely, absolutely. But I would not be for it, because of it. I just don't want to create a carnival experience environment in a judicial system.
Yeah.
So normal procedure is this application comes here, and if it involves that space, it goes to the judge.
Yes.
And then if the judge says yes, signs off on it in a positive, says it can move forward, it comes back still to be approved here.
Yes. Yeah.
What's an office house style entertainment?
I have
don't
no
know.
idea what that is,
I mean, why all of a sudden,
office house.
after it's been vacant for 3 years, 4 years, and all of a sudden I just think there may be some other motives in that.
And we've been getting quite a few, and we've,
Yeah,
you
but
know.
nothing of this size.
Nothing of this size. The only thing of that size that we've ever had that is Heritage Fest, but they've done that long before the courthouse
Yeah.
was even down. And that's on a weekend. We do our parking lots, we close our parking lots and different things, so, but I just noticed there are a few more events, and, you know, the judge hasn't had an issue with any of them yet. A little concerned last time about the movies and then the World Cup, showing the World Cup, but he said as long as they stick to the ordinance, the city ordinance, and it's
Because his concern
And
there
those
was
were
the
evening-
noise.
those
The
were
noise, yeah.
Evening events.
evening events,
Evening
yes.
events.
But
I
judge
mean-
was fine with that, it was evening, just
Yeah,
wanted to make
yeah.
sure like after 10, it wasn't loud, it wasn't, so. But this was just during work hours, I figure I better
Yeah.
bring it up, and
Yeah.
judge is usually pretty quick to review these, so.
Yeah, I
I'm just
agree.
kind of mixed feelings on the whole thing. I don't want to create the carnival atmosphere. I agree with that 100%, but it is also kind of the people's area.
Well,
and
yeah.
If they want to, if we start picking what we restrict it for, other than objectionable things, you wouldn't approve it for a.
Right, well, so I just wonder where we kind of end up drawing a
Yeah, where do
line,
we-
so that we're consistent, so that we can be consistent as these requests started changing what's coming in.
Right.
And like I said, that daytime hours is that
Is that our
is the
line?
big concern. And do we, well, and I don't know, what, does it give the dimensions of the tent?
No.
Okay, because a larger tent is gonna mean some stakes, and we do have some stuff under there we don't wanna, obviously, they would have to watch out for
Yeah.
pounding things into, but, the sprinkler stuff, right?
Yes, yep.
But I just would rather we kind of get a line drawn now, so we're not sounding subjective
Yeah.
to future requests, because they might just keep coming, so I thought, as,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I mean, where does it stop?
yeah, exactly, when will the next
Where-
good cause
Yeah.
cause us to
I mean,
be
they've
judgmental?
had baseball games out there, they've had ice skating.
Yeah, well, this
rinks.
is, those are more temporary or short-term evening type events. This is something that is more permanent in the daytime. I just think that goes totally against what we should be doing in a judicial setting.
And I know we've had concerns coming in that we're taking away from businesses because there's venues, there's areas that people can use out there other than the courthouse lawn that do that for a living, you know, host these events, and
Yeah.
we don't want to take any business away from anybody either.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
it is, you know, we've never
Told anybody.
We've never
no.
told anybody no, at least since I've been here. We've never told anybody no. So, but they're just getting bigger and more frequent. So I figured I
Yeah.
better at least bring it up. And
There are nice areas
yours.
down by the river that they could hold such events.
Yeah, I understand, I'm not, I don't wanna see a carnival there either. I don't completely understand what this is.
I can ask him for more details.
Yeah, well, it goes to the judge, I guess we see where the judge, because the judge would happen to say no, then
Well, he's already coming.
the point is.
He's
null-
got it. I just sent
The
it to
point
him
is null and
yesterday.
void.
He hasn't
If he says
commented
no,
on it
it's
yet.
okay.
Okay.
No,
He has not.
no, I sent
commented.
it to him. I just sent it to him yesterday.
Yeah, okay.
If he says yes, I think we need to just have a little more information.
While you're waiting on the judge, why don't you just find out
Can
what,
find out.
what that is?
Okay.
What is office house entertainment or whatever that is?
Okay.
And what is children's entertainment? Is that animals in a circus, or is that a movie, or what is?
Okay. Yep, I can do that.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that works. All right, and the quarterly meeting,
Yes, our quarterly meeting is this month on the 29th, and I've set it up with Bettsville, and that's 308 Emma Street, and that'll be the 29th at 7 o'clock.
is that where the city council meets?
I
Or
think
village,
so.
excuse me, village council?
Yeah.
But, okay.
Yep.
I thought it was Green Springs in the 29th.
We were going to, but there was some scheduling, so we just
Okay.
kind of swapped them around from
And
Green
those are at
Springs to
7?
Bettsville. Yep,
Seven.
And what time is it?
7. So there you know we're coming.
Okay,
Good.
good. Well, let's proceed with, there's no other old business. We'll proceed with new business and begin with the bill vouchers.
I have bill vouchers 70 through 71. I have a supplement to the permit appropriations within the Sheriff's Community Correction Grant Fund, 086, putting $12,401.30 into salaries, $500 into supplies, $6,663 into contract services, $225 into other expense, $500 into travel and training, $1,426.15 into Medicare, $250 into the HSA, $1,080 into hospitalization, $2,233 into PRS, for a total of $25,278.45. I have an appropriation adjustment for the hazardous materials fund, $150, moving $18.75 from Medicare to PRS. I have a supplement to the permit appropriations, the general fund for 2014. This is at the request of the clerk of courts, putting $4,400 into supplies, and they've got a lot of stuff that still has the Mary Ward clerk of courts and different things on that Gene wants to get changed over, so, and they didn't didn't anticipate that in their budget, and so she's requesting the $4,400. I have a resolution authorizing an appropriation adjustment within the Seneca County Sewer District Fund 139, moving $245 from equipment to PRS. I have a resolution hiring Molly, not say her name right, I imagine, Maskovitz, as an intermittent receptionist for the Seneca County Commissioners through the TNF Summer Youth Employment Program, effective July 7th, 2014. A resolution hiring Bailey Hickman as an intermittent maintenance worker for the Seneca County Maintenance Department through the TNF Summer Youth Employment Program, effective July 7th, 2014. And he will be working with Job and Family Services. And there's 2 L's in July. And that's all I have.
I move we approve.
Seconded.
A motion and a second to approve the resolutions as read. Any questions or comments? The sheriff's stuff is all part of his grant, so it's just them getting it where they need it from the
Yep.
grant funding. And what was the other one I was gonna ask you? And the additional for the clerk, that is just coming, because they're under general fund anyway.
Correct.
But that's just giving them so they have it.
Yep.
Because they didn't anticipate those needs.
Right, yep.
Okay.
And these 2 temporary employees are just our summer youth. The money all comes from Job and Family Services to employ them. Just gives a kid a chance to get some work experience, basically. Costs the county nothing, other than the effort.
Yep.
And just a question, is it the best way to utilize that, or could Molly be better utilized down in regional planning? Maybe we can't do that, I don't know, because that's a non-county department.
But it's for all businesses. Any business can get TANF workers. Any business in the county.
They
It
might
doesn't have to
still
be
have,
county.
they might still have people available that are qualified and interested,
Mhm.
if they're interested in a person.
Yeah, I mean, because right now with that being short-staffed, that may be an option to have someone in, to fill in down there, so I don't know how we contact TNF or.
You just
Well-
go
Contact-
to Job and Family.
Job and Family. They ask them if there's
I
any.
talked to Carol Owen, and then, what's her name? I don't remember the young lady that's working with me. It was a different lady than it was last year.
You may first want to check with Bree, but
Okay.
her with having the additional responsibilities down there until we find a replacement for the director, she may be able to use some staffing there.
Well, that wouldn't be our decision, though. That'd be
The
regional
executive,
planning
the
board
executive committee's
decision.
decision if, I mean, if they want
Yeah.
Bree to have that responsibility of another person there, I mean, that's their call.
I start with asking her if she's for it, then I'll go back to
Yeah.
regional
Okay.
planning.
And sometimes these workers are really good, and sometimes they're more of a, you
Yeah.
gotta follow them more than babysit.
Yeah,
That's why we got Molly to kind of help us with our filing, to move everything out of the back room and into the basement. And she's helping with the title project right now because she's really versed in computers, so.
depends on their level of experience.
Yeah.
And Jeff and I aren't? Is that what you're telling me?
Anyways,
How about a roll call?
Commissioner Wagner?
Yes.
Commissioner Zoller?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes, all approved as read and stated. All the above, all right. Well, we are early. Are you guys ready for the Board of Elections, or do you have other people coming or anything?
We're ready for you.
As
As far as I know, we're it.
Director, Deputy Director, okay. All right, you're on.
Thank you for having us today. We've identified some supplemental finances we need for the balance of the year, carry us through the election, and some items that we need in our office. Deputy Yerman will help you out with any of your questions.
I presume that there's a bunch of questions, so
Yeah.
I'll field them as best I can.
I admit I was shocked when I got the request, because it amounts to a 20% increase over your original appropriation. And I've never had a request that big from any department, 20% more than the original appropriation, especially given the fact that your original appropriation was more than you spent last year, and more than you spent during the last, according to the records we got from the auditor,
Okay.
and more than what you spent during the last gubernatorial election. So you were not under appropriated to begin with. It's a little awkward, I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I think there are deeper problems at the Board of Elections that are causing these money issues. You had a number of folks resign prior to the election that said pretty uncomplimentary things about the board, as well as one board member that left, citing again the dysfunction of the board itself. And I know you two aren't on the board, you
Yeah.
work for the board. But I don't have any confidence in your methodology or your numbers that you arrived at that methodology. You cite a lot of state mandates. I called I called 4 of our neighboring counties, Dawnford, Sandusky, Huron, and Hancock. And none of them are requesting any more money from their commissioners. If it was truly state mandate driven, a lot of other counties would be asking the same thing.
I don't know what their budgets were to start with.
I'm not sure either. I also called the Commissioners Association, and they said they expected maybe a little bit because there are some more days there right close to the election, but they didn't expect anything big. I did talk to a former employee who I trust and respect a considerable amount, and asked if money was being spent wisely at the Board of Elections, and she gave me a pretty emphatic no. There's a couple things specific would be the contract with an individual from Putnam County for training, excuse me, when that was offered to be done, excuse me, by a highly trained person locally for free. As well as the part-time employees that you're trying to add, she did not feel there was any need for those, and I agree with that. So I have a lot of trouble with this request. The size of it, the need for it, and like I say, I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, but I've dug into this thing and I just don't think I can approve it.
To address the contractor from Putnam County, the training there brought us into the electronic age further. There's computer issues and training there that was not available locally. That we needed to find somebody to bring in. Our outside trainers cost us $1,450 a day, $2,000 a day, or $1,000 a day to bring them in from the technical service companies we have. That contractor cost us $25 an hour. Given that we needed computer training specific on how to use the computers best for the election, our view was that $25 an hour is a whole lot better than $1,000, $1,450, or $2,000 a day to bring them in from election services or Triad to do similar training. We did both,
Is the
but
training completed now?
no.
It is
We have new
What
staff
we-
again.
What have we spent to date, and what's the projected additional expenditures for training? Let's try to break this down step by step by step to be able to somehow or justify where you're coming from. 'Cause,
Sure.
I mean, I think it's public knowledge, it's a $60,000 request, which is substantial.
It is.
Mr. Wagner, so for me to get my hands around it, I need to look at it step by step by step. 60,000 is basically 20% of what your budget was. That's monumental.
Yes.
Okay, I hear the training, I understand, and I can buy into that. Let's put a dollar value to the
Putnam
training.
County contractor cost us $3,500 up through the election.
Pardon?
The contractor from Putnam County, as an independent contractor, cost us, I believe, $3,500 for the election process.
That's
to
what
get
the
us through.
contract was for
Right.
amount up to 3,500.
Right.
To the end of May.
To the end of,
May 23rd or something.
right. And we would like to continue to hire her, which is part of the salary line that I've added in there. I explained to you was we have the opportunity to continue to hire her 1 day a week at $25 an hour to bring her in for additional training for us and the new staff. We have 2 new staff members.
So the-
How many hours are you proposing? How many days?
1 day a week, 7 hours a day
For
till
how
the end of
many?
the year.
To the end of the year?
Correct.
So that comes at a cost of what?
$4,500.
And so
So-
does that cost factor in that if this person is an hourly employee at $25 an hour?
Mhm.
The PERS and the workers' comp, is that
Didn't
figured into
factor
that?
that in, no.
That is an additional.
Yes, that would be an additional.
Does it become a question if this is the same person that performed individual contract services, doing the same type of job training, and now becomes an hourly employee? Does that not get us into some potential future liability concerns? Because of PERS.
I'm not an attorney to be able to answer that part. I don't know.
So for training, we got $8,000 additional. If you look at last year's expenses and this year's budget, right now we got $8,000 on top of that plus PERS.
Plus, there's an additional 9,000 built in for other training that I also put in here under contract services. That was under employment. I'd like to bring Triad back in to train further, 3,000. And I'd like us to be able to go to Election System Services is offering training in Southwest Ohio, which would cost us about 6,000. Now, if we were to go out to their home office for their normal training, that would run us 7,000 per person. They're offering it at 2,000 per person. On top of that, you also have transportation, room and board, because we're gonna be down near the Cincinnati area.
Let me ask you, is this something that can be phased in over a period of a couple of years? I mean, can you take it in bites? Let's look at this. This is the
Yeah.
elephant. You've got, let's just say that, assuming the department was way behind on technology, and you want to get up to the 21st century. Okay, I think that's kind of what you're saying.
It is.
Okay, do we have to take this monumental leap forward that's going to be $60,000 or half of it, whatever it is? Or can we take it in incremental steps so we can start budgeting it in over the next 3 years? And where you take steps, I mean, is that a possibility?
All things are possible in life, so yeah, that's a possibility. The ES&S training in Southwest Ohio, in my view, is a cost savings, not a cost to. Because right now, we're, by contract, not allowed to program the ballot computer, not allowed to program the ballots, to enter all that. We have to bring them in at $14.50 a day. And that's a big piece of the contract services appropriation extra for this coming election. We'd like to go get trained so that we can do that programming. And I don't promise that we're going to eliminate $14.50 a day entirely, but if we can eliminate half of that, just for the November election, that 6,000 to send us to training pays for itself this year. Or if you want to take it in bites, send one of us 3,000, and that person can come back and do a lot of programming, and hopefully teach the other one how to do it. And then there's spend 3,000, and if we can save 3 days worth of ES&S at $14.50 a day, we've more than made up that
And
money.
we're paying that now.
We're paying that
one
now.
in previous years.
You've
we
paid that
this
every year, yes.
$14.50 a day, and we've averaged 3 days a year.
And we averaged more than that a year. We averaged, it was 13,000 just for the spring election for them. And when you look at your supplemental requests in the fall, the last several years, now, I didn't verify any of this with Julie, but I did go back and looked at the supplemental requests the office have sent, because those were in files. In 2013, in May, we had to supplement 15,000 for contract services. That was primarily Triad and ESS. These are the training we want.
This is over top the budget. This
Yes.
is strictly supplements. That was in what, 13?
This was 13. These are the requests. I didn't go to Julie's office and see what was approved and go through. I just reached into our file cabinet. In 2012, in October, there was an additional money order found for $11,375 in contract services. That again is these two companies that we're trying to go get trained to do. In 2011, there was a $4,000 to contract services, $1,000 to contract services, and there was a March $22,813 to contract services. But there wasn't one of those in 2010, so I think that's when the state shifted that burden to the commissioners, is why that 22,000 was there. But every year, there's a supplemental.
You lost me at 11. How much?
In 2013, you actually spent $288,270. That was more than the original appropriation, but you actually spent $288,000.
Okay,
The last gubernatorial year, you spent $285. We appropriated you $295, more than you spent either of those years originally. So you were not under appropriate at the beginning of the year.
well, we had staff turnover and payouts. We had new staff come in, we've had training. We've got 4 people that are all new, so we've got everybody's on a learning curve right now. And that requires A, additional training, and B, till we're up to speed on the computers and certified, we have to bring in those other people.
Yeah, in the contract services, you're, like I said,
Mhm.
for that training that's where that's going, and that is
A big chunk of that, yes.
$9,000 in training is part of that contract service line.
Mhm.
All right, and you have the additional person, the independent contractor you've kept on as a temp. You're saying at.
For additional training,
You're saying 1 day a week, 7 hours a week?
yes.
So that'd be 14, just 14 hours, a pay period.
Mhm.
Twice you made a request last minute and asked us to immediately reduce supplies. 4,000 in May, 10,000 in March, and took 14,000 at that point that you put in contract services. And I imagine that was to cover that contract before.
That was.
So that was 14,000 additional we already gave,
3,500 of that was to cover the independent contractor that's currently working as a temp.
and the rest of it was training.
Or to that ESNS contract, which ESNS contract's 22,000 and change, and the Triad contract, Triad is our
training.
voter registration company. Just to have them with us and to use their systems, there's a contract. And same with ESNS, there's a hardware cost, maintenance cost, and training, all the above. And that's all in there.
Yeah, but this is all budgeted. This was budgeted, so we're looking at is justifying the 60, which, what I guess you're saying is, if you had the 60,000, these other items next year could be
Should be
reduced.
lower. Yes. We should be able to eliminate a lot of these 1450 a day stops.
Can you give me a figure, which you can eliminate next year, which you would propose you can eliminate next year?
I'm hoping that we can eliminate 12 to 20 grand of that. But I won't know until we get the certification, until we're able to do this programming. So
But
we
we
don't have to
invested
pay
60.
$14.50 when for example, when the Libertarians had their lawsuit piece going to be on or not on the ballot this last time. The ballots were programmed. We had to stop and reprogram to remove the Libertarians after the court fight from the ballot. That was an extra $14.50. If we were certified, we could take that $14.50, we could go downstairs, do the computer programming, come back upstairs, and no cost. My preference would be not to have to bring somebody in. The only way to do that is to get us trained.
Yes. Did you have a, okay, I thought you had a question. Where's your staffing at right now? Because
We're at 3
basically.
full-time
you got
and
your-
2 part-time right now. The one
Okay, so
part-timer,
Full-time, your 2 as directors, and then.
one part-time.
One clerk position's been
full-time
filled
clerk.
and one has not been filled?
One is filled on a temporary basis, or on a part-time basis. We have that one working at 20 hours a week. And then the other part of that 20 hours a week, we're putting into the 1 day a week to keep our trainer going. So right now, I'm bringing one clerk in part-time and balancing that with the need for training and bringing her in 1 day a week, but we'd prefer that clerk to get up full-time.
Now, isn't the law requirement that it's one Republican, one Democrat? The full-time requirement is not a law requirement, just the status of that. So since you're utilizing your highly qualified, experienced trainer as a balance of that, is there a concern with that or not?
Not until election time. Once the election time starts, which will be soon, 100 days before the election is when the election begins. So it's coming up, which is why we're requesting this now. Because I'd like to make sure we have 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans full-time in office at that point.
And so.
Right
where
now
I
we
read
have,
An article about two part-time permanent positions, is that happening? That way, I mean, it wasn't an official board
We did
report, it was in a
not.
committee report, but,
we did not adjust that in here with the exception of we've got mandated extra hours for this election. We're gonna be, instead of running a 35-hour work week, we're gonna be running 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. We will have 2 Saturdays we have to work a Sunday. That's the legal requirement now. That's a state mandate.
so it's more days you're open for that, in
Yeah,
that period of
it's
time.
4 days were open, so I asked for an extra $2,000 for staffing. That's just to cover extra hours to keep everything balanced. Because again, we have to have a Democrat Republican in office at any time. And if we go down to our basement to work, we have to have a Democrat Republican working down there. So at that point, we need to make sure we always have 2 on staff at any given moment. 4 on staff that are available to work is better. Because the balloting equipment is all in the basement. It's not internet accessible. You have to actually go downstairs and work that stuff, so.
You folks are both on salary.
Correct.
Okay, there's 2 Saturdays and 1 half-a-day Sunday. Why not just have the 2 salary people work those?
Happy to do it. I plan to be there. Extra staffing in case we have to be in the basement working. Because if we have to be prepping things in the basement or have things that must be done, we can't split our time and serve the voters, which will be voting, and be downstairs. That's just logistics. Other than that, I plan to be there for Saturdays and Sundays. That's what I'm hired for.
And Sunday's just a 4-hour, that's a 1 to 5.
Correct. Now, for the presidential year, which is, again, taking that bite in a couple of years, it's gonna be a bigger requirement. But for right now, it's just the 1 Sunday.
I've got to say that my opinion doesn't waver far from Mr. Wagner's at the beginning of this discussion about just kind of the, in my time, brief history of operations, of wondering what the heck is all going on. The staffing changes, the other things like that, but, you know, just basic procedures. You know, the follow-through on the space issue has been far from consistent and really knowing and figuring that. Not sure where that's at. We were promised a letter from ADA that we were told about in a board session, that there was some demands on things from the Secretary of State's office. We've yet to see that. That was probably about a month before the primary. These requests for these changes that were made earlier in the year, which both come in, you know, can you add to the agenda today? Can it get on ASAP, both sent on Tuesday mornings, an hour or 2 before our board sessions to begin? There's some things like that that I'm sorry, but that adds to the concerns of things, and then to see a 20% increase request in the budget when we gave, like I said, all this training stuff's a little confusing.
The last minute stuff is on me. That's me getting used to working in government as opposed to 24 years running my own business. I need to shift money from A to B to make sure this is all going to get done. I apologize. That's just my getting used to the new steps and the procedures. That's no one else to point a finger at on that part. Because I'm used to being able to go and say, oh, this needs to be shifted over to this account. Let's get her done. And I've learned, and Julie and her staff have trained me quite a bit on, you have this step, and you have procedures and steps to take. And that's on me. And as I said, that one, when I own it, I do. And that's 24 years of private business. You get used to, when I say this needs done and you're the boss, this gets done and that's it, and you switch it. And that's not the way this works. So that should improve as I get more used to needing to request things further in advance. That's part of why I wrote this up this way, so that you'd have an idea of what any possible additional requests would be between now and the end of the year, as opposed to, oh, we need this at the last minute. Oh, I gotta do this. Oh, we've gotta get this paid. I'd rather be upfront and just say, this is what we see as the possibilities. This is where we see we need to go, and these are the things we think we need to do to run a successful election. And make sure that that's all right up front, so that by the end of the year, I'm not coming back here hat in hand 3 or 4 times saying, hey, I know it's Tuesday morning and we need to switch this money. I'd rather work it differently.
I personally would like to see this broken down into two parts. One is the technology, and I guess I still don't have my hand around it. Exactly, for you to get the organization up to a level which you feel we needed technology and training, what's that cost? And what is the proposed savings next year? If we
Proposed
spend this
savings
money
part I
now,
didn't put in, yeah.
pardon?
I didn't put anything on the proposed
Well,
savings.
that's, I mean,
And that's a big
that would
piece.
go, to go ahead and invest 60,000, if we know we're gonna have $20,000 less expenditures on the budget next year, okay, if you look at a 3-year payback, I can justify that. But that's what I'm gonna need to be able to make that decision. And a real define, I mean, I'm trying to write numbers down as you're giving to me here, and I don't have a clear definition. You got $14.50, I got $25 an hour, I got this. Put it all together, training and technological advancement that needs to be done in the board of election, what's that cost gonna be?
Okay.
Bingo, whatever that is. Now, if we invest this, we can eliminate this next year. And there's we gotta hold some people accountable here.
Sure.
If that it's no different when I go out in business, buy a piece of equipment, okay, what's my payback?
What's the payback? What's
my
the return
payback?
on the investment? Sure.
Give me that, and you can't say, well, I think it may be this, I mean, you gotta, because next year, I mean, when we look at your budget, and if you say you can reduce it $20,000, that's gonna come right out of the budget. Whatever we gave you this year, it's gonna be 20,000 or 15 or whatever you say. And then I'm gonna justify that as to the expenditure, okay? That set aside. And then you get kind of what, I know Jim and I talked about kind of the wish list, the things that, the added things you would kind of like, and then see if that can be phased in over a period of a couple of years.
And the wish list part I did try to address on here. On the parts where I emphasized that, these are required, these are what I really see we gotta have to get through the fall election and get to the end of the year. This is parts that we just have to have extra money for. The requested parts, and I wrote the words in there, is clear, so where I put requested, that's the parts that maybe we could take a bite of the apple this year and a bite next year. Ideally, we'd like to get it all up done with, of course, because we just wanna have it up and running. But the parts we're requesting, that's just it, those are just additional requests. With the emphasis that on one piece of it, we don't get the one training, it's gonna cost more at elections. And the other piece, we've got a piece of equipment in there that the laser printer is still working, but sometimes we gotta unpower it, sometimes we gotta take it apart. Right now, we're still working. If we don't get that, eventually we're gonna be back saying, but if it makes it to the end of the year, it's on next year's supply budget at that point. So, we're just hoping to get it through the November 1 and we'll go from there. But that was 2,000 right there, that, it is, we still are making it work. It's just a challenging piece of equipment right now.
And don't feel I'm picking on you, I'm the guy that was ready to move you out to Job and Family even when the whole town was against it.
Oh, I know.
So I'm not picking on just the Board of Elections, I'm just saying the way I see it, and
Sure.
61,000 is unrealistic, there's no way I can grant anything close to that. Especially when there's been management problems
Perceived.
pointed out to us before. I think they're more than perceived, but
Well, come to our meeting so we can address that with you and explain to you our side. You need to look at both sides. And if you're only getting the information from the person you say you trust, you're only getting one side.
well,
And I can address that with you if you'd like to know the whole backstory.
it's not just the one that you're thinking of, which we're on the same wavelength there, but, we have a letter from one of the employees that left that says, I lost it, but it calls it a dysfunctional organizational culture within the Board of Elections. That's-
And I can fully address that with you and demonstrate
Okay.
the reasons why we have addition by subtraction there. So,
Okay,
it,
okay, well,
anytime
anyway,
you'd like to discuss it with me, I'd be happy to do it with you.
okay, anyway, it sends up,
We have two people in the directorship position now who are absolutely willing to learn the technology, to do things that our previous staff members and previous leadership was steadfastly unwilling to do. And the things that they're asking you to do to fund their training will yield great savings to the county by allowing us to do things in-house. You're not going to have to be paying out-of-county people to come in and do things at $1,450 a day when the city of Tiffin's not going to get anything from income tax from these companies when the money's flowing out of the county. The giant sucking sound, like Ross Perot used to talk about, it's been happening since I've been on the Board of Elections, because we've had people who've refused to learn the technology, to learn to do them in-house. Now that we're able to have two people who are willing and anxious to learn how to use the system to save the county money, I really think that we need to address that and take a look at training these people so they can save us money instead of sending money out of county. It's going to pay for itself. I am absolutely confident. Since I've been on the Board of Elections, I've been trying to get people in the leadership position to step up and do what we absolutely need to do, rather than taking a passive role and saying, well, we can hire somebody else to come in and do this for us while we sit and do something else. That's exactly what we have in these two people. So I'm just afraid that you're not getting that.
Okay, well, I'm not critical of these gentlemen. I've not worked
You
with them
shouldn't
that
be.
much. I have worked with other boards of elections when I was state rep. I worked with Sandusky County and Seneca because we had to do stuff both places. And Seneca County was better run than Sandusky County from 2002 to 2008. It was definitely, 2010, it was definitely a better run operation than Sandusky County.
We're certainly behind the 8 ball now.
Okay. So,
I've visited the other boards of elections too, and when you take I've been to Wood County, I've been to Crawford County, I've been to Wyandotte County, I've been to Sandusky County. I know what's going on in those boards of elections. We're far behind, and it's time for us to stop being like Gordon Gee used to call the other schools the little sisters of the poor. We can do better, and the people of Seneca County deserve it, and we're in a position to do exactly what we need to do. So that's what.
I cannot approve the 61,000, I guess is what I'm saying. Come back with the bare minimum you need to make the election happen. It sends a terrible message to every other office in the county if I just approve a 20% increase in somebody's budget mid-year. It's a terrible message, especially when the perception is out there that it is.
Well, it depends on what the reason why an office is asking for an increase. If the county engineer was asking for a 20% increase and able to demonstrate to you that in the next 4 fiscal years, they're going to be able to save substantially more based on a 20% increase this year, as a taxpayer, I'd say, why aren't we doing it? Why would we want to continue to increase our spending in the future because we don't want to increase this year? So that's exactly what we're doing for the people of Seneca County. I've been trying to be on the board tight-fisted with our money. Where can we cut? Where can we do better? Where can we do ourselves rather than hiring somebody else to come in? And why should we pay somebody from Cleveland to come in here or Cincinnati to come in here and do our work for us when we have the horses here and the means to do it ourselves?
So my point, we didn't need the lady from Putnam County.
Absolutely we did.
You had a previous board member who was a previous employee for a number of years.
Who refused.
Who said she would do the training and she was denied the ability to do that. That was her direct words to me.
Well, with all due respect,
with
all due respect, Commissioner Stacy, I wholeheartedly disagree with that assertion. Because when that person was in the directorship and on the board, there was a refusal to consider any reduction in outside contract services to allow for training so we could do it ourselves. And that's a fact.
I'm switching up.
Go ahead.
I got two other things. The additional amount for the one thing that pertained to directives or advisories, I did look that up, and it was advisory to 2014-04, which I took a lot to find that because I didn't know what the number was. but the, for the changes for provisional and absentee voter envelopes, I'm sure this has probably happened in the past, and I don't know, how many envelopes that's purchasing and coordinated forms, and or how many you have left, and would there not be a way to possibly use up supplies rather than waste any
We
supplies?
were directed to get rid of all provisional envelopes. Those went to the recycling bin.
See, I
That was also in.
didn't read that
Yeah.
it demanded things get totally, I don't know, I've got the directive
Yeah.
here.
That was from the regional meeting we just went to. The Secretary of State stood up and said, well, his staff stood up and said, get rid of that stuff. As far as the
many
absentee envelopes, we still have that on appeal, because we have several thousand of those. If we get the appeal won, and it's only a matter of a couple of words, then we save a lot of money right there. The provisional envelopes are having to be redone. The absentee is under appeal, so we'll see. I didn't, at the time of this, have any way to know I still don't know whether that's going to be acceptable or not. So I have to budget in, and I still don't have prices from the outside vendors that I need to get these envelopes going, because they haven't given us a price yet. So my best ballpark is what you got there, which was after phone conversations with ES&S. But that's only, this is a ballpark number that we're giving you. I don't have anything in writing on that yet. So that could dramatically change on that one line where I've asked for $5,000 for envelopes. Because if I don't have to get rid of all the absentee envelopes, that saves a ton. If it's only the provisionals, great, and if they're only $1 an envelope and we only need 500 of them or 1,000 of them, then that, instead of 5,000, it's 1,000. But not knowing, and me putting in a request, it was, you put in the bigger number. At the end of the year, to my understanding, if that money wasn't used, we give it back to the commissioners. So I'd rather not say, oh, I said 1,000, but I meant 5,000. It's easier to come back and say, we were able to save that money. Maybe that approach is wrong, but I'd far rather be able to give you back the money at the end of the year saying, yay, than come back in October and say, yeah, I got the number wrong.
Mr. Zillo, did you have something?
Well, again, I think what you need to do is come back here to request,
Okay.
okay? Look at your training and your technological things and address the savings as one separate request,
Sure.
okay? We look at the cost, look at the savings. Then you come back with the other things that you feel are absolutely bottom line mandated for you to be able to run a successful election, okay?
Sure.
And they come back with that figure. I certainly agree with the other two commissioners is that 60-some thousand is a lot of money. And there
Absolutely.
has been a lot of instability in that office that throws up a red flag to me. But I also understand that maybe there was some reluctancy on expanding the technology part of that department. And you guys are trying to shore that up. I can buy into that. I gotta put a price tag to it though.
Sure.
You gotta understand that. So, as I said, maybe even a 3-phase. One, and I hate to make this complex, but you break it down where we can get our hands around it and make it more palatable, you know. First we look at the technology and we look at the training. Then we look at the absolute mandated things that just, for you to run a successful election, this is what's gotta be done.
Sure.
As a second phase. And a third phase to advance it, or a third request, kind of advance it at a level which you think we need, which
Sure.
would really get you up in utopia.
I'll work on that this
I
week.
think, I mean, then I would need that to be able to really, before I can make a decision, but 60,000 is an awful tough pill to swallow here right now, boys.
Absolutely.
Awful tough pill.
It was tough for me to write it up, so it's
And
tougher to ask sometimes, but
Sure.
I guess my last bit of concerns come with the concern of liability to the county. And that is what I mentioned, but I just want to ask again, because maybe in the same thing you could address that. Maybe there's no concern, but that $25 an hour employee, part-time employee, who was an independent contractor, that is concerning. the one Republican, one Democrat staffing concern. You said you have someone as a part-time basis that basically took that clerk position to a part-time position instead of
Temporarily.
full-time,
Temporarily.
temporarily. So if indeed that person is willing and/or after whatever time you decide you want that person to be the full-time, just to make sure your staffing is going to work through whatever law requires us to have, because you can't use a $25 hour employee from another county to fulfill that statutory requirement
The
to be that
statutory
person. I'm assuming they
requirement-
have to live in the county.
The statute requirement.
The 1R, the 1D clerks, they do that
The directors only have to be.
in the county, right? Okay. But
Clerks
still,
can be from anywhere.
okay, so I mean, you, obviously, I don't know what that voting record is of that person to know that they indeed fulfill that need of being that. And since
They do.
it is, says for training, then I certainly don't think you want to have a $25 hour person performing clerk duties.
No.
Okay.
No, it'd be my preference to
And
get
obviously,
training
it's
done.
one,
and
one
get
day a
it-
week, then that isn't gonna help fill
It's not
that
gonna help,
balance of
no.
that need. It does overall dollar figures, I see what you're thinking, but,
Yeah, that's all, the only reason that we're doing it that way is doing my best to balance the dollar figures pending approval of more dollars. Because right now, I'm trying to work within our staff budget and to keep that balance is what I'm doing.
and are your board members, and Jim, maybe you know, are they ever permitted, I know because the same requirements are the Rs and Ds with the board, to fill in, you know, boards in other organizations might occasionally fill in, volunteer to do some time to help out the staff. Is that anything permissible and/or does happen, or can happen for our Board of Elections, or not? I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
On that Sunday or that Saturday, you know, a couple board members come in.
I didn't know how that, okay. That's all I had.
I'm absolutely convinced that you guys are honorable, and what you're trying to do is the right thing for the county. There's no doubt about it. Do put yourself in our position.
Oh, yeah.
We got a $15 million budget that we run for the county. If everybody, county department come to us with 20%, we gotta pull $3 million out of someplace, somewhere. So, I mean, you understand where we're coming from. I mean, so, you just have to.
I don't think we make a habit of it. And we're trying to take a look at these things as one-time expenditures that will pay you off in the long run.
Yep, and
We're
once we
trying to
have those
save you
figures.
money. I am, any possible way that I can figure out to save $1 or $100 for the Board of Elections, I'm trying to do it.
And I'm convinced that you are.
Because if I can save it for the Board of Elections and you can put it in a bridge or do something to fix something else for the county, I'm all for it.
You're a taxpayer like the rest of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't want it wasted.
Yeah. Once we have that figure.
Sure.
Cost savings, then I
We'll
can,
get that to you as soon as possible, because the window on the less expensive training in Southwest Ohio closes, because that's the end of the month. The training is
July.
at the end of the month.
you got your homework you're gonna need to do.
Exactly.
I'd love to get this on next week's agenda.
So I will get that to you as soon as possible.
Are you coming to the meeting?
Yes, I will be at the meeting tomorrow night at 5.
And I would invite you all to come to the office and view what's going on. We really have changed a lot since the turnover. We're really working to get things to work better. Our board, in working with the board, best board I've seen so far of any boards I've worked with the people that are there. So really look forward to building it up again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
That concludes our posted agenda and adjustments to our agenda. What about citizens' comments at this time of our meeting? Anything?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yes.
A thought struck me last week after the Volunteer of America people left. And if I understood things correctly, last October, they asked for you to approve like 18 million things.
Something like that.
And in the meantime, in waiting for hopefully a better interest rate, construction costs have gone up. And for them to have to change it from 18 million to 20 million, roughly 1/9, 10, 11%, that happened during 9 months. And are we losing a lot of difference in construction costs in terms of a justice center by not moving forward in any respects? I mean, there was $2 million in 9 months. How long has it been since we're moving anything toward a justice center?
I don't know what if the projections were in that, if you know in
Yeah,
that
yes,
study, if
yes,
some
yes,
of
it
those were
was.
in there, and we're just not at the point
Yeah.
between two city and county to make a decision. We are looking at the contract concerns on how to do something with the two entities. So we just,
That-
if we wanted to, we can't make that decision today because we don't know how we set that
No,
up.
but
That
if
is
we're
the-
not moving,
Yeah.
if we're not moving.
Yeah,
No,
we're,
no,
we're
no.
having those
Sitting,
meetings,
if
we're
just
having
moving.
that discussion and
Okay,
exploring
so
things. The
meetings
prosecutor and
haven't
I
happened.
are the persons from the county, and he's in the process of exploring contractually how it had to look, and the city and with their law directors doing on their behalf. So that is happening.
That is the very reason why I think it's so important we keep this program moving forward. The study has outlined that we're at, was it 5 or 6% a year to the cost of that?
That's not in the study. It's not in the study anywhere.
No, but the V of A.
It may be
I
true,
mean,
but it's not
their
in the study.
Oh, that's,
experience
okay.
is
Well,
that
I remember
lesson
they
is what I
made
would
that
say.
statement, that.
It may be
Okay.
true, it's just not in the.
Okay, it's not in the study, but that statement was made during the process of the study. That, and we all know, and it's a very valid point. Here's a case, 9 months of waiting costs $2 million more. Well,
you know.
if it happened there, it's gonna happen here, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's what my thinking was saying afterward. I got to thinking about it. I thought, wow, 9 months,
2 mil.
over 10%.
Cost of steel is skyrocketing, and masonry cost and so forth, you know. Yeah. And extremely valid point, and,
I just
That's
wanted
what-
to express my concern.
well, thank you.
Any other comments? Madam Auditor, did you have anything for us?
No, just an update on the software for the financial. Just wanted to share that the staff has attended 2 training sessions and are exposed to what it'll do. Some questions have come up. Anytime I talk to Stacy, we're brainstorming on different things. How will this work in the system? So conversation is good there. But again, we're in the queue for when they will convert Seneca County. My concern is if it gets to be too late in the year that they propose a conversion, we may have to wait until after the first of the year, just because timing could be an issue. But I will keep you posted. I have not gotten any other comments or dates other than like a September right now. But if they push us back from that, then I would have to respectfully request that they look at us at the first of the year so we can get through year end, okay? So just wanted to share.
All right. That's it. And next Tuesday, we have a work session. Do we have anybody scheduled for that?
I don't think so. I don't think anybody's scheduled.
I wonder if
for that
Scat
yet.
would be available. They got the new director on board now. I wasn't able to make the open house because of other meetings. They kept saying they'd come in sometime. Might be nice for an update if we have nothing else on there, and I don't know if they'd be available. Good one to check on.
I can call and ask.
Otherwise, like I said, we can come in, and not that we can't end up coming up with things that we need to talk about in that time, but just a thought.
Just another comment, I was out this morning, met with Kathy Oliver, and of course, my question always is to any building is, how's your heating, HVAC working, and blah, 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 so forth and so on, and they're working much better out there, and that's the question I've got for you in a minute, and you're saying Dean is typically out there, and he's kind of short-circuiting the system, so it's working, they're comfortable. My question is, and my concern is, if Dean's short-circuiting the system, we could potentially be losing some of the advantages of what Palmer's supposed to be doing. So I would prefer that Dean would consult with Palmer when he his job is to make it as comfortable as possible, as quickly as possible. You don't want the air conditioner on in the middle of winter, or, blah, 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 so forth and so on. But if he's having to turn a wrench here or do something there to take care of it, that may in fact reduce the savings that we were gonna have, and I'd like,
We send all the issues to Earl, and as best of my knowledge, Earl and Dean have been working
Do they?
together. Dean will tell him, this is what I got to do till you can get down here and figure out what's wrong.
That's fine, as long as
As far
he's
as-
communicating with them,
Yep.
so, you know, he's not always,
It's always Earl's fault.
yes, tinkering with the system and blah, 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 okay.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely fine then.
Did you have a question for Julie?
Are you, any better over there?
The readout, I guess the thermostat, shows what I purchased as an independent thermostat to see what the room temperature was, because it was such a struggle to get the energy folks to understand that it's hot. So that I could get I bought a $7 Tiffin Hardware thermometer so we could see what truly was happening. And the variances has gotten better, but like this morning, coming into the office early with it being locked up, it was at 71.5. While it read that, it just didn't feel like it. I don't know if it's just because it's so humid outside. I mean, it's definitely different than what I have at my house. And my house is set at 75. So
But you think it's getting slightly better?
that's probably a
We're
big
inching,
statement.
inching forward, okay.
Well, 71.5 seemed pretty comfortable to me.
We keep ours at,
Is that
about 70.
cold?
Is that too cold or too hot?
Too cold or too hot?
It was just a warm feeling due to the humidity, I imagine.
I just want to make sure we are moving
Mine's at
forward.
74
and-
at home.
and Today, we have less problems than we had yesterday, and tomorrow we have
Yeah, mine's
fewer
about
problems
like
we had the
there
day
in my
before. As
bedroom.
long as we are moving forward, I believe that Earl and Palmer will eventually get us up. Because again, we all got to realize the reason we did this, the reason our predecessors did this, to save the county money on its energy costs. So that, that's why the system is so important. It's got to work as what it was engineered to do, so we can see the maximum savings.
Yes.
Can I ask, how soon will they be in the building doing, I believe it was Klaus's group will be in the building? Do we
Where's that?
know?
The contract
Yeah.
didn't have the appropriate name on the contract, so Tanya has sent it back to Klaus to fix the contract, so it says, it's that form that they've got to fill out, and it didn't match the state's,
Title number?
yeah, it didn't match the state's name, so Derek sent it back to have it fixed.
Is the contract written as such for them to start as soon as possible, or
Yeah.
by date? Okay.
Yep.
And it should-
Realistically, Julie, it's probably gonna be September, late August, September, I don't.
And you don't envision it interrupting any work day, it'll all be done on weekends, evenings? That's was my question.
Yeah,
I assumed that. I don't know that I read
I
the
can
wording
ask
that
that.
way. Do you
Yeah.
know?
Oh, I don't imagine they're gonna do it on weekends. I think
But I think-
most of the the drywall, the moisture, the, whatever you call it, mold in the drywall is probably down in the basement, you know, down in regional planning and in the mailroom and so forth. I would suspect that's where the majority of the work is gonna be done at. Now, there will certainly be a little bit up in your office, and I don't know in Mike or Damon's office or not, but I think it's gonna be more downstairs and we might
Because we
got.
do have some records that are locked that I don't believe even maintenance has. Some of our archive records that are locked in the basement. And I was just wondering timeframe, for timing in that.
We could kind of ask them
Mhm.
to give us a heads up on their
Yep.
plan once we know the paperwork's all ready to let them move forward.
yep,
So we
I
can keep
can-
everybody over in the building aware of the plans.
yeah, we were just trying to get the contract in place.
It may be a little inconvenient for a while, there's just not much we can do about that.
Are we still
I just didn't
talking
know the
about
expectation.
pressure washing the building this year after that's done, or would that kind of go into next year?
Well, whenever it's done, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I think we ought to wait till it's done.
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order?
I move we adjourn.
Seconded.
Motion and second that we stand adjourned at 11:10. Thank you.